Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. You know, it's a year of magical learning. We are on actually 127. It's exciting to get to this number, but who's counting, right? Today I want to talk about philosophy. Let's do that, right?
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this one. This is actually a very good piggyback off of the discussion we were having yesterday about
Okay.
why Buddhism is true and the red pill and blue pill and purple pills and whatever all the pills that we
So
were
you're
talking about
you're in
yesterday.
the philosophy zone when you were
Yes,
picking up these books.
apparently, yeah. I go through these ebbs and flows of I'll feel like I'll go all in for like a couple weeks or a month or something like that on a certain topic, and then it's switches to natural
Right.
science, and then it switches to work, and then it switches to it doesn't matter. Like the whole
Yeah,
goal
I
of
tend
all
to do the
this
same
is
thing too.
yeah,
You kind of cluster some of these, I guess, thoughts of in a certain area.
yeah, and then you get tired of it, and then you're like, look, all right, I feel like
It's
I'm
top of
literally
mind, until
yeah,
you get
yeah,
bored and they say, hey, I want something to change the scenery.
exactly.
And you go say, well, what's new that I would like to maybe get a fresh perspectives on? Then you just jump into that one. And then sometimes you go back to this, the same
Oh yeah.
category as, you have absorbed and processed information you got. And now you're ready for the next phase.
Exactly. Like, I mean, so I always have to keep in mind for me personally, why I'm reading, and why I'm learning, and that's to do something with my daughter every day. So, like, for
Right.
me, I don't really care about necessarily. We were just kind of talking about this about a new book that I just started right before we hopped on here, and it's not about the book. You know what I mean? It's not about what I'm learning. It's that I'm learning. So I feel like whatever you're learning
Uh-huh.
leads to whatever you're going to learn next, and then eventually you hit a wall and you're like, okay, and then Amelia and I decide what are we going to do next. So then we start down a whole nother train track, and then like you said,
Yeah,
we'll jump
I think
trains all
that's
the time.
well put. One of the core values, one of the top five core values in the top five of company is learning. And
Right.
it's just that. It's exactly what you just described. It's the learning for learning's sake. It's not about what you're
Exactly.
learning. It is
Exactly.
just learn. And so I really agree with that.
Awesome. So yeah, so this one was an interesting one. So this was in a period of I guess philosophy exploration for me. So the reflection title of this one is Mountains and Valleys, and the book is the story of philosophy, the lives and opinions of the world's greatest philosophers, from Plato to John Dewey, by Will Durant. So Will Durant, if you don't remember, do you know him? Do you know who he
Will and
is?
Durant, right?
Yep. So we already did one of their books, which was
Mhm.
the history of the world, or something like that. I think, is that what it's called?
Right.
The short history of the world, or history of the world, whatever it was. Will Durant's a philosopher, kind of esque himself in general, and this particular book from him, I actually really liked this one because it was the story of philosophy. And as you and I know, and as everyone knows, humans think in stories, right? So one of the things that I've always had struggles with this was told like philosophy as in, from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle to modern time, people and how their ideas built on each other, and it was kind of like a thread that weaves through it all, right? It actually takes me back to that one, the Socrates Express, that Eric Weiner wrote, that we did a few books back. And that was another reason I actually really enjoyed that philosophy book, because it was a story. Like, it wasn't like, the reason why I don't like philosophy a lot of times is it's just going into somebody's mind, and it's a bunch of words that are disconnected, and it might make sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to me, because it's always told as like, like just
They don't
a
give you the
conscious stream of
foundation. It's
consciousness.
like an
Right.
aphorism where, the art of running downhill. Well, if
What
you
does
don't
that mean?
have the backstory to it,
Right.
you kind of get lost.
Yeah. It's not even that you get lost. It's like, it just doesn't even register. I feel like whenever I read a
Right, because
philosophy
you
book,
have no idea what that meant. Like if I
exactly.
say Hakuna Matata, right? Everybody knows that because they watched the movie. But if
Yes.
I go to the mountain And I told a Buddhist who never watched TV or never had a TV, I say,
Hakuna
Hakuna Matata. I say, what are you saying? So
that would be hilarious, actually.
to me, everybody that is in the know knows what I mean when I say that phrase.
Yes.
Right? It means no worries. Right? Everybody knows that. Everybody can repeat that. But if you go to some crevice of the world where this, whoever is in that crevice never seen the movie, have no idea what you're saying. So I feel like philosophy does that to me. It gives you this nugget of a catchphrase or saying, and then they say, okay, that's philosophy. That's what I think.
You want to yeah, right.
Think however you want to think.
You
And for me, it's like, okay, well, I don't really understand, so I'm lost. I mean, I'm
right.
I just don't know. I just don't know what you're saying.
I mean, I think you're queuing me up here perfectly on this one, because like this is what we've talked. Actually, one of your truisms that I wrote in here is I
didn't even know how truism.
yeah. Loves philosophy, but you hate philosophers.
Yes, we hate philosophers.
Right. So
yes.
So there's another truism for you that I dropped on this one. I must catch your own truisms more than you catch your own truisms.
I don't think you're supposed to catch your own truism.
That's fair. No, make sure you write that one down, because that's another one that you should add to the book. But I'm
not supposed to catch my own truism. Is that one?
Kind of. I think you need to, if you spend a little bit of time and you thought about it, I would say, yeah, you're supposed to you could catch your own, of things that you, or the thoughts that are constantly going through your head.
I think you cannot catch it, because in what I'm like imagining, when somebody does something, right, is a projection from within out. It's only you can only see it if the other person hit it back. Like you would pat it back to me, say, okay, look, this is what I'm saying. Because it's like a sounding board. If there is no sounding board like yourself, I would never catch it. Never catch it. Right? So you have to catch it first. Say, hey, this is truism, and then I would think about it. Okay, maybe it is. But there's no way I would catch it if I can say whatever and however and however long, I would never catch it. And to me, that is a truism in itself.
There you go. I like it. So it's for me, then I will say that this is a truism that I feel like you should write down, because I really do like this one, because I don't not value philosophy. Hell, you could argue that what I'm writing and what you and I are doing is we're talking philosophy every single day, and I mean, are we philosophers? I shudder to think. It makes me do the Mufasa, hyenas, the the Mufasa. I mean, if somebody were to call me a philosopher, I would be like, like I don't want that. I don't want that label. I don't want to even be considered that. But at the same time, like, this is what philosophy is discussing an idea and talking through it and figuring out how you might apply it to your life or not, right? And so I'm working really hard to read books like this to kind of break myself of that natural inclination to say, like, God, I just don't want to go read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It makes me want to punch myself in the face. I don't want to hear about Nietzsche and read his thoughts. Like, it makes me want to blow my brains out whenever I'm reading these books. I tried Walden Pond I've tried that. I've tried to start that book like 4 times, and I couldn't get through the first like 3 pages. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I cannot mentally go down this road with this guy, because it's like it's just a thought experiment. It's like walking into somebody's mind, and you're like, I don't know all the other context that happened in your mind before. I just don't get it. If you're just going to tell me how you feel. So anyway, actually, to be fair, one of the things that I do a lot with my reflections, and one of the things that you and I do a lot with these things, is we turn them into stories. Like, these aren't just stories about. This isn't just about mountains and valleys. This is a story of this book, how this book, I think of when I read this book, what I was doing with this book, how this idea came about, and you can weave a story around it, right? Because that's really how things are going to stick or not. So anyway, going back to your truism of, I do love philosophy, but I used to hate philosophers. Now I'm at least agnostic toward philosophers. Like I don't love them, but I've at least broken myself of the idea of hating them because I value philosophy in general. So anyway, but here's my problem, and here's why I've always had this thought of why I hated philosophers. They're unbalanced. Like, and on one of our goal, and this is what we talked about yesterday with the whole red pill and blue pill. That's why I said these conversations go really well together, where we talked a lot about mountains and valleys. The goal and the mission of what we are trying to do is balance around meaningful work and meaningful relationships, right? Like, so my problem with philosophers is they're so unbalanced. They spend all day in that mountain of their time. You could call Buddhist philosophers. They spend all day in the mountains, in their minds and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, but they never come back down to that valley floor to go get to work, and figure out, hey, Nietzsche might say some great stuff, but does it work in life? Yeah, I don't know. Like, didn't the guy kill himself? I think, if clearly he wasn't living his own, clearly something wasn't working, or people might talk about like Van Gogh, and, I know he was an artist, but like, they talk about a lot of his like philosophies and stuff like that. And, and they'll put Van Gogh quotes up there about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that guy killed himself. Like, how is this?
Yeah, dude.
Right. I mean, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, clearly what he was doing doesn't work on the valley floor with the people, you should look for a sustainable, balanced, happy life where you can do meaningful work and meaningful relationships. And that's what you and I are after. And that's what you and I are trying to build here. So this is where I feel like Clubany is that great mix between, mountains and valleys, right? Like, we're doing our time here to think and to spend our time in this thought and to reflect and to share our thoughts together, share it with the world, and have discussions around it. But then we're getting to work on shit, like, then we have things that we're actually doing every single day to see if this even works, if the philosophies that we're talking about and the ideas that we're sharing even works. So that is what I like to call the art of living, which is balance, which is the two meaningful, that is not just the art of thinking or the art of doing. The art of living is balancing mountains and valleys together, right? And figuring out when you need that time to go think and when you need that time to go do, and put it all together. So yeah, the question's irrelevant. Like, I'd love to get your thoughts. I'll just pause there.
Yeah, I think I really love the concept of mountain and valleys, but I think for me, like, going through all of the reflection we have thus far, I truly believe that we have stumbled upon the secret to life, which is balance. Because human nature is like one of these things where, if you sit still, you get bored, and your anxiety, your body wants you to move. And then you move too fast, your body says to slow down. So you can't take the red pill and not take the blue pill, because you need to be in that neutral. Because in life, right? Because if you think about, in general, if you took the red pill, right, there is no way that the red pill is better than the blue pill. Only if you take the blue pill and the red pill, right? You take the blue pill, then the red pill, or the red pill, then the blue pill. Only then can you know the difference. And so
that's only binary too. What if there's an orange pill that you can take when you're in the red pill? And what if there's an ultraviolet purple pill you can take when you're in the orange pill? And what I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it never ends. Like, there's got to be a point.
Think about life itself, right? You think about life itself. If you say, well, I'm going to do a lot of stuff, right? What would you do how do you think your life would be like if you're doing a lot of stuff, doing 10 things a day or 10 million things a day, like people have, go into it. I'm doing 10 million things a day, right? What do you think your life would be like? It's very hectic. You don't want it. You say, I can't sustain this. And then you take the opposite end, the other extreme end. You say, well, I'm going to do nothing. Like, they can't even last for 30 minutes because they're bored. I mean, you go to the prisons, right? And you are the worst of the worst criminals. The punishment they give these criminals that, they put them to solitary confinement. And they put it in like for 3 days. And the guy said, oh, I won't ever do it again. And it's the worst thing ever.
Torture.
For us, we as a human being need to find that optimal middle ground. And that's what we call balance. And balance is what can give you what? Peace of mind. It's a peace of mind is what gives you your calmness, your ability to have a more like a more like clarity into the, I guess, directions of your life and what you want to do and how to maximize. To me, like for example, you cannot experience joy unless you experience sadness, right? So that's always that binary opposition where you have to have both to recognize the other and try to be in the middle. And the middle is where you are most at peace. And to me, life's about having peace with yourself, not having your body is telling you, "Hi, I'm in pain," or your brain is telling you that it's bored, or some other anxiety that tells you, hey, the dopamine tells you you need to worry about the future and the past, or whatever the case may be. It's always about, there's always the middle ground of like the past, the future, but the present. If we either live in the past, which is not good, or we live in the future, which is not good, we got to live in the present, right? Understand what we have at the present moment. And if you can do that, the experience you have at the present will be much more than you would expect. A lot of time people miss a lot of the details in the present because they never stop to think about. People say stop and smell the roses. Like that's a like cliche saying that many people adopt, but they don't do that. They always live in a mysterious future that never comes to life, just because. I mean, think about it. All the kind of imagining future that you have, right? How many of them came true? Especially the farther one away, like 6 months from now, a year from now, like 99% of them never comes right to be the reality. It just that's not possible because there's so many variables and dynamics that keep changing. And so that to me is, I see that patterns over and over and over again. We're talking about the red pill and blue pill yesterday. We're talking about mountains and valleys today, and we're talking about some other stuff. Many times in the past, is about balance is what you are trying to achieve. So the thing is, like I say, if you say, hey, if I let's take the book Happiness Hypothesis, for example, right? You can be happy, right? Happy means what? I don't know, having joy, having excitement, having this chemical that's rushing into your head. But eventually it gets to a point where it stabilizes at that point, and you want more and you want more and more. It's like your addiction to heroin, where you want more and more and more, because even if you get to that point, right, it get like it get used to that level, and it expects more and expects more. So the thing is, you keep chasing. Let's say you want to buy a house, right? A bigger house and a bigger house, it never ends. Same thing with your money. You're making 10,000 a year, then you want 20,000 a year, then you want 40,000 a year, and then when you 50, like it never ends. And so even in the pursuit of the joy, right, you don't get happiness because you're not at peace with yourself, because something is still driving you without you having control over it. Whether that you drive because you needed the money, or because you think you need the money, or the other side is you do nothing and your body says, hey, you have to do something, or you lose. Let's say you use, like we talk about the in the previous episode, we're talking about like what was it? I forgot what the story was, but I was telling you about the cast, right? You put your cast into your leg, and you use it to brace your leg, but you don't use it. Eventually you're going to lose the usage of the leg. It's something with not moving, right? So your body doesn't want you to move. So that's the thing, is it's always the strike of balance, and the balance will give you that optimal peace of mind. And optimal peace of mind is allow you to absorb a lot of the experiences that's going to give you a more purposeful, more like, to me, in what I would call my calling in life. And that's, if the calling is fitting with my characteristic and my personality, then I feel like my life is fulfilling. And to me, that's the ultimate goal in life, is to have that peace of mind, that the neutrality, that balance between the two, not one extreme or the other extreme, because that's what people do. They go and they work really, really hard, and then they crash. Right. They're not okay, because you think about it, we're talking about these episodes, right? Like I said, I'm not counting because I'm not going to do a bunch of podcasts and I'll stop or I crash and burn because I can't do it anymore. I'm just taking one step at a time. One,
It's sustainable. Balance is
bird by
sustainable.
bird, right?
Right, exactly.
Same thing, bird by bird, like
Right.
book by book, episode by episode, and I'm not counting because I don't need to count.
Right. Because it's sustainable. You get joy out of it, and you get just enough joy out of it, and then you can continue. You don't overeat. You don't
Right.
fill yourself. You don't fill yourself.
You're starving or you're too full, right? I mean,
right.
Like you're hungry, and then you eat.
Goldilocks.
Well, now I'm full. I'm too full, right? So you can never satisfy yourself. So you have to eat just enough that you're not hungry, but not too full, because it happens all the time. I mean, think about think back to all the times that you're hungry, you eat too much, and then you're suffering because you ate too much. So you're suffering because you're hungry. You're suffering because you ate.
Right.
So you're suffering.
Find a balance. Yeah, right. Like find a balance.
So there is an answer. There is an answer, which is to have balance, is have enough. What does your body needs? What is that neutrality point, right? People think neutrality is boring, but it isn't. In my mind, neutrality means balance. It isn't like boring. Boring when you do nothing, and having too much when you have chaos and have anxieties and whatnot. Have neutrality is like, okay, I like to do something today, but I'm not going to run for a train. I'm going to keep my capacity in a way that is optimal. I'm not filling up all my capacity of my mental capacity to its max. I'm going to put it at like 67%, right? I'm not going to go too low either because I'll be bored, or I'm going to lose the ability and the excitement of learning something new. So even in that kind of a situation, the balance core values applies. If you have that, right, you feel good. And it's not about the amount, right? It's about what it is that is in the middle for you. For somebody, it's like, I want to make 80,000 a year, right? That to them is the middle ground. I'm not making 10,000. I'm not making 1 million, but I'm making 80,000. To other people, maybe different. There could be 40,000. There could be 50,000. Whatever. It's different for different people. But for that particular person, they have a scale, and you have to kind of get into the middle where the balance of that scale is. And the scales could be different for different people.
I totally agree. And here's the thing for me with the word balance. I think it's so misunderstood, and people get so it's such an argument starter because you hear the words work-life balance all the time, and people are like, it doesn't exist. Like, I actually, the book that I told you today that I almost was tempted to shut off until Amelia and I talked about it, and we were like, look, we're doing this to learn, not to like get some deep insight or whatever. So, but he was specifically saying like balance doesn't exist. Like it can't possibly exist. Like you spend it just by definition, if you spend 8 hours sleeping and you spend 8 hours at work, like you cannot cram the rest of your life stuff into this other 8 hours. And I look at that and I go, that's he's not wrong when you look at it in the constraints that you're looking at it as of this is all the time you have in a day to do, and like I got to do 8 hours of work and I got to sleep. You do have to sleep for 8 hours, like that's a given. But the everything else you could do once you're awake, like it's really your choice of how you divide up that time. And my personal thought of the key to balance is it's doing a little bit of it all to balance yourself out all day long, because you're never going to be
if you say it's not doesn't exist, and it won't exist. That's just the way it is. I mean, we talk. This is one of the lessons we learned in the past episode is, if you think it doesn't exist, then it won't.
It doesn't exist, right?
Because you basically shut down your imagination, your superpower to say, hey, it doesn't exist. You never even give it a chance for your brain to even process it and find out if there is a possible way. You just tell your brain, say, hey, it shouldn't exist. You shouldn't even try. So it never did. And to me, when you say, yes, if you look at your current stage, his current life right now, it's not balanced. But that doesn't mean that it cannot be, because you're saying, hey, I'm going to go work 8 hours a day. Who told you?
Who told you to do that? Right. Like maybe you should only work 3 hours and make it really impactful, and then go spend another 2 or 3 hours of, reading a book or something like that, or going to do the other things that you care about doing, and do it in like we always say, the perfect day is ordinary, because it's doing the shit that you want to do because you want to do it, because it aligns to your purpose, your mission, whatever it is in life that you want to do. Like, you have control over that. Like, I mean, like, there's without a doubt in my mind, like I actually told Felicia this the other day, and a part of me is a little ashamed of this, and at the same time I'm also kind of proud of myself. Like, I probably haven't really worked in like 3 months, and I've made $45,000 in those 3 months. Like, I'm getting paid to do nothing right now. Like, I mean, and that blows my mind sometimes, where I go, I feel really bad. Like, and when I say work, like I'm in my professional job, like, which I don't even love. Like, we work hard every single day. Like, we work hard with Living for Two stuff. We work hard with this stuff. We work hard with writing reflections and clubbing and stuff and all the other things that we do, right, in life. Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I work hard.
I mean, I think
I work hard on the things that I care
not
about.
hard.
Right. Sorry.
Effortful.
Right. I work. Yeah, it's I don't know the word. It's meaningful work. What I do.
Effortful. You put out an effort.
Right.
Put a lot of effort, but it's not hard. Right?
Exactly. It's not hard. No, it's effort.
It's not hard because I want to do it. It's not hard. I mean, you play tennis, right? You play all out and you use all your energy. Is that hard? No, it's not hard, right? It's fun for you, exactly. Right? But if you don't like to play tennis and you work the same amount of exert the same amount of energy that you did because you like it, right? It's hard because it's just draining you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever comes to mind, it will be against you. It's against the grain. And so for me, when you do anything like doing this thing, right, doing the podcast, it's not work. It's an effort. I put an effort. I put an effort into thinking, but it flows, and for me, it's it's not like a weight on my shoulder. I don't feel any kind of anxiety. I don't feel any kind of worry. You ask me if I want to do the podcast right now. I say, okay, let's do it. I mean, there's no like, oh, I don't know. I'm not ready. None of that, right? That's the thing. Is if you have any kind of worry, you carry some kind of chip in your shoulder. If you don't, then it doesn't. You're at peace with yourself. You don't mind showing people the real you, right? Your authentic you. Then it doesn't have any pressure. A lot of people do have pressure because they worry about what other people think. They worry about what other people may not see and may not like you for who you are, and that creates pressure. That becomes work, right? Becomes work because you're doing like, hey, I'm going to go fix my hair. I'm going to go fix my camera or whatever. It creates anxiety on you, and you feel like there's a ton of weight that you carry on your shoulder. And to me, that's why it's called work. But if you put an effort, even though you exert very much energy, but it isn't, I guess it goes against the grain. Go down the river, for example, the other running downhill. It is easy, effortful, but it's easy.
We need to come up with another word for work.
That's what I have been trying to avoid since the beginning of time. So work has been used so much that it's hard because we're talking about
meaningful activity.
Thinking fast and slow, like there's always this anchor, right? We anchor on something already. Because let's say I say, hey Chris, I was driving, me and my father was driving to Disneyland, and along the road I saw a duck, right? What do you think about? You think Donald Duck or some duck, whatever, because I anchor you. So the word work has been used so much that it's anchor on something negative.
That's what balance is anchored on right now. Balance is anchored on something negative.
Balance also anchored on something negative.
It's unobtainable.
Balance it's like the math, right?
Right.
It's a paradigm. You anchor on a wrong paradigm. And that's hard to kind of separate and explain to the audience what we mean by, hey, it's not work. Because work, you think, is always about going to work to make money, to trade your time for money. And most of the time you don't really like it, because even if the work that you like, but you don't like the way they want you to do it, and
Yeah.
it's still going against the grain. And to me, that is something that people associate the word work with. And every time you mention work, that's the image that shows up. So it's harder, it's very hard to kind of erase that image. Because like we all know about Disneyland, right? I'm telling you that I'm driving to Disneyland. That's the moment that you anchor anything that I tell you next.
Any visual memory comes into mind.
To Disneyland.
Your stories come into mind. You think of you're right. You think all the different visuals. You think when I think of the word, like literally when you say the word work to me, I think of going into an office building, sitting in a cubicle, and being next to somebody doing something that I don't probably want to be next to, and talking to them about shit that I don't really want to talk about. Like that's what I think of when I hear the word work, in a historical sense, right? When we say the word work, then I think of this stuff. Like I think of having fun, talking about things that matter, helping other people, giving more than I take, learning something new every single day, writing, reflecting, sharing thoughts. Like those are not, going to play, tennis or something like that, or like. But there's a million things that come to my mind now when I say the word work that has no association to that. So it's almost like that
because you have been trained to disassociate in the past 2.5 years.
Right.
A lot of people haven't been. They have been conditioned to think of the image of a work based on what they have experienced. And most of the time, it's about a cubicle or some kind of,
shit that you don't want to
where
they don't want to do it. Right. It's like when you think of school, you think of, oh God, I got to go learn about shit that I don't care about with around people that I don't care about. And like that's the same thing that we associate with work. So I think that you and I probably need to brainstorm offline maybe and talk about or keep going through these conversations until we figure out what is that word that we want to say. And a part of me wants to say that I think I may have already coined this as a criticism potentially of conscious living or conscious doing. Where you're intentionally performing an action that aligns to something that is purposeful and meaningful in your life, right? So whether you want to call that, we've been calling that meaningful work, but I mean, maybe we should start calling it conscious doing or something like that. It's something that's an intentional action that, I don't know if you want to call it work, but it's an intentional action that aligns to other things. We don't just sit around and do nothing all day long. That's the whole mountains and valleys, right? Like, it's not like you and I just, hang out and, and shoot the shit. And then we go back and, do nothing all day long. Like, no, you and I both
that's the thing. If you think
busy.
about a group of people, right? They stay in the valleys and they see the mountain. They want to go to the mountains. And the people at the mountains, when they see the valleys, they say, I want to go down the valley. And that's what people, you have to have the best of both.
You gotta have both.
You have to have the balance.
Right.
Because the guy who's in the valley, it's like, for me, it's like, I grew up in a small city, right? Outside of San Antonio, Texas. It's in a place called Seguin, Texas. When I was growing up, the population was 18,000. There's nothing there. There's one McDonald's, and we are fortunate to have that McDonald's. One McDonald's, there's no malls or anything like that, right? There isn't anything there, right? And when I was growing up, I cannot wait to get out of it because there's nothing happens. Like basically, even on the street, like the busiest street, right? You see a car coming down every 10 minutes.
Right.
One car coming down and they drive like they never ever drive over 30. It's like because I moved to Houston when I graduated from college. When I came back there, it's like I'm in slow motion.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is what I was thinking. When I was younger, I can't wait to get out. But now that I have all these responsibilities, tons of things to do, I go back there, say, this is so
really
peaceful.
nice.
I want to go back here. So there's that balance. I have a peaceful life. I want more excitement. They don't have excitement. I say, I don't want excitement. I want a medium ground between the slow pace and the fast pace. I want my own pace.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's the key. Is it's your own pace. Like, balance is your own pace. There is no there is no mythical, like code to balance, right? Like, and I think that's what people always are so desperate for answers to say, like, hey,
okay, some kind of like strange, weird method
linear,
or
like it's
whatever.
always got to be linear. It's always got to be this step, like 5 steps. Every fucking book that I ever read that's like a how-to, like they always have like a 5-step guide, 5 steps to changing this, 7 steps to doing this, 10 steps to doing this. Like, there is no steps. Like it is literally just do
It's
the
just a
shit that you like.
framework. It's not a step.
Right.
Because there's no single recipe that is gonna make your balance cake, or whatever you want to call this thing.
Yeah.
It is, hey, if you put in a number of eggs, right, then you need to have another ratio or proportion of flour or butter or whatever. It's not about, hey, 2 eggs. Well, these eggs are much bigger than those eggs.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Or you can't just cook your eggs first and then go, flip your flour and then whatever, and then melt all your butter and then throw it all together in a pan and go, oh, I made it. I followed the instructions. No, you have to go. You have to take it in the form that it is and figure out how to mix it all together until it becomes a great
I mean, it's just different for different people. Like, you're talking about sleeping, right? Some people sleep more, some people sleep less. But balance to them isn't a number. Hey, you guys sleep 8 hours, or you guys sleep 10 hours, or you guys sleep 4 hours, or I sleep 6 hours, and I'm successful. Well, that's you. You're successful because that's your body. It needs 5 hours. Then you got 5 hours. Don't tell me go sleep 5 hours.
Right.
Right. If I need 8 and I sleep 5 hours, right? I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm harming myself, right? And so that's the thing for a lot of these how to is to tell you like these steps, like eat this much, because right now, like for example, the USDA will tell you, hey, you need to eat 2,000 calories for a man, right? I don't know. I mean, you can't just make everybody the same thing. It's like you say, hey, sloth, you eat like 2,000 calories, and a cheetah eats 2,000 calories, right? It doesn't work.
Yeah, you're 6'8", like LeBron James does not need to eat
cheetah, it's not enough.
LeBron James does not need to eat as much food as I'm eating every single day. I'm 5'5" and he's 6'8" and he weighs 280 pounds and he's a professional basketball player. And like, I mean, if he's eating the same amount that I'm eating, he's probably dying. I mean, and that's bad.
Weight, right?
Right.
He exerts more energy than you do. And so to me, it's not about the recipes. It's about the framework and the concept and method you need to do, right? What do I do? But it has to be related to you,
right?
Not to the mass normal standard or some other quote unquote successful. They're successful because, like I said before, they have the key to success. But the key is to their house, not to your house. So they can't take their key and open your door. It doesn't work, right?
True.
Think about it.
I like that
tourism.
Yeah, I was about to say. That's a good one. Write that one down. You can't unlock somebody else's door with your key. With your key.
You can't unlock your own door with another person's key. It doesn't work. It has to be your key.
Write that down. Are you writing these down? I mean, seriously, are you writing these down?
I will. I mean, but the thing is, I don't run for train. So if I remember, I write down. If not, then it'll come back. Just like,
I'm about to start writing them down.
You can write them down.
No, I did. I wrote down like 7 of them, sent it to you. I don't know what you did with it, but that's another.
Well, story. I saved it in Slack. So
gotcha. Then maybe that's what I'll do.
Maybe when I get to 100, I publish it. I publish it into a pamphlet.
I'm doing it right now. We're gonna make a truism channel, and anytime that happens.
Yeah, so my thoughts and my truism, it's fleeting like like the seconds of a hand clock.
Yes. All right, so now we write, you can't, what is it? You can't unlock someone else's door with your key or something like that. Is that what it was? You
can't unlock your own door with somebody else's key. Because this is what happens. A lot of people say, hey, Elon Musk is successful because he sleeps only 2 hours and he wakes up at 5 and he does this. That's the key to success. And so I'm going to copy his key. I take his key and I want to become successful too. It's essentially taking his key and trying to open your door of success. It doesn't work because you're different than him. You cannot be like him. Even his twin brother cannot be like him.
Right. Yeah, no, I
Right.
agree.
And so each of the
The code, the balance code.
yeah, it's completely unique. So you cannot use an exact duplications of somebody else's code
It's
on
like
a
a
key
DNA code. I mean, it's
or
like
a
a DNA code.
recipe
Right.
to replicate the same result. It doesn't work because, like I said, you have somebody else's key and you try to unlock your door. It does not work. It doesn't make sense. It just, I shouldn't have to say anymore.
You don't. I mean, that makes sense. It makes a ton of sense to me. You're sounding like a philosopher more and more these days, you know.
So a philosophy, right? You are what you do, not what you're being labeled.
I agree. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So
yeah.
I'm a philosopher. I'm a philosopher when I'm talking philosophy, but I'm not a philosopher by label. I don't want to be labeled as philosopher.
So that's why I'm saying it's conscious. It's conscious doing.
Conscious doing.
I mean that's I think I spelled that wrong, but no, it's conscious doing, like or conscious living, whatever you want to say it as. Like it's there's thought behind it. There's a reason why it aligns to your purpose and your mission, and what you decided to do is about finding that balance in your life, you know, and living that balance, you know, like, and finding that code, you know what I mean, unlocking the balance code, whatever it is, right? This is why I think you and I both hate philosophers, because I feel like so many of them are so unbalanced. Like, I mean, these people are just crazy, unbalanced psychopaths. I mean, like dudes like Thoreau that went and lived in the woods for, you know, however long he went to live in the woods to come back with Walden. Like, great, you did that. I'm happy for you. But that's extreme. Like, you know, I mean, it's not necessary. You know, it's not human. Like what you did was anti-human, like, you know, not having like sex with people, or not, you know, refusing to ever eat, you know, sometimes, or like, you know, I'm not saying fasting is bad, you know, in certain capacities, but you know, like abstaining from, you know, like just a lot of the things that gets structured into the religion, you know, what's that?
Chopping off your own ear.
Yeah, like chopping off your own ear. Yeah, like Van Gogh. Yeah, I mean, there's look, and those are the people that we champion. These are the people that we you know, like, it blows my mind.
Be like that guy. No, this guy is messed up in the head. A lot of time when you even if you have the ability to get into the mind of a philosopher, I would caution you to be careful, because it could completely destroy your sanity.
For sure. I mean, they like that's it's funny, like, and it blows my mind that we teach philosophy, the art of thinking, like, which is, I don't know what the definition of philosophy is, but basically it's the art of thinking, right? You know, and that's it. But we teach it, like we like the art of thinking, like we teach it. We go and say, hey, if you want to learn philosophy as a subject, you need to learn Nietzsche, you need to learn Rousseau, you need to learn you know, Socrates, Plato, you know, all these guys.
That's why I don't hate philosophers. It's because it's not because you cannot say, you know, I'm going to learn about philosophy. I'm going to learn about what these guys saying. You don't know what they're saying. If I go to some island in Indonesia that have never have a TV, and I say Hakuna Matata, right? This is essentially what the philosopher. This is what they are learning. They are learning these concepts from this philosopher, this philosophy, right? What are you learning?
No
You're
idea.
not learning anything. It's meaningless to you. And then you say, well, I'm a philosopher, and I tell you Hakuna Matata, and it means something like no worry, but has no meaning to you. It's meaningless to you. And philosophers keep regurgitating the same thing to other people, which they don't understand. This is why I don't like philosophy, because they, for whatever reason, put a label on themselves saying, hey, I have the authority to tell you what should be and what should not be. Right? For me, philosophy is like the art of thinking. That's anyone can do. Anyone can be a philosopher.
Everyone can, like, yes, everyone.
Exactly.
Not just anyone. Everyone.
But the thing is, the philosophy that each individual it is discussing, it is based on their own experience. They have the ability to imagining the scenario, and they understand the impact of what they're saying. The philosophers is they took somebody else's word and trying to absorb that as their own experience, which they cannot because they have never been there. They have they don't understand the intricate details and the experience that it's just not possible by saying, okay, Buddhism is about suffering,
or the self, or the not self, and you're like,
the self is not self.
What's not self? Like, you're like, well, I don't even know what that
exactly
even means.
And
like,
so they keep right. So a Buddhist would learn about Buddhism philosophy, and they go down and say, you are not yourself, and yourself is not you, and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Because the guy who's saying it don't even know.
Right.
They just regurgitate what they supposed. And to me, to learn philosophy, it's a lost cause. You cannot learn philosophy. You either think or you don't think.
I agree.
Because the thinking is about learning about the things that you want to, the things that you have learned, whether you want to or not. You just learn them, right? You read a book, whether you like the book or not. You read books, say, hey, I don't like this book because of this. But it's experience that you got. And experience you got is allows you to think about things. Why don't you like that? Why do you like this? And that is essence of the philosophy. Not saying, okay, I'm going to the wood and I meditate like Buddha, and I say, self is not self, and not self itself, and you should not be yourself.
Right.
You should be yourself. So to me, I'm just like, dude, stop telling people what to do. It is not your authority to tell somebody what they are supposed to do and not supposed to do.
I 100% agree. That said, you should always share your thoughts, but secondarily, you should always have your own philosophy. You should always, that's basically what a purpose is.
Right. For me, it's about sharing your thought. It's not about imposing your thought on someone else. That is why I hate philosopher. I love philosophy because I like to hear people's thought. But I want the freedom to choose. Don't impose your philosophy, your moral code onto me. I will decide that. And the same thing for us is I'm not imposing my philosophy on anyone. I'm just telling this is my thought. It's okay if you disagree. It's okay if you have different, because I know you are different than me. And it's fine to see the things that fit you and the thing that doesn't fit you. You just gotta pick the one that fitted you and use it. It's a framework. It's not a recipe. It's not saying, hey, you should always do good. You should always pay, for the person in front of you or behind you in a toll booth or something. If I say to you that, I'm imposing.
Yes,
I'm not
I agree. And I that was why we made sure when we were creating our own culture and our own clubany and our own core values to write in that we don't know anything, like humility, right? Like, I mean, that is a part of our DNA code of what we're trying to do, because everything that we say, we always balance it out by saying, well, but we don't really know anything. Like, I mean, it's just, this is what works for us or doesn't work for us. We're exploring. Like, if you went back and looked at what we started this conversation with 2.5 years ago or whatever it was to where we are now, some of the shit that we would have said then, and we'd be like, some of the stuff, like, the stuff that we're saying right now, and 2 years we'll probably go, right. I mean, and I don't care because we don't know what we're talking about. We know what we're trying to get to, and we know what our goal is, and we'll keep going down that road, and we'll keep exploring that for the rest of our life, and that's the point of all this stuff. But nobody has to do anything, right? I mean, well, yeah, we think we know. I mean, but nobody has to do anything that what we're saying. If you want to take a nugget from what we're doing, then that's why we're leaving these breadcrumbs. And if you don't, then
like I say,
then
I'm
don't.
not
Like, I don't care. I mean,
and I'm not telling you what's right, what's wrong, because that's
Not
not my place.
Right.
I'm just here to share my experience and to see if you feel the same way or different way. And I would love to hear the differences, and I would love to hear that any affirmations. But I'm not telling you, hey, this is what I think, and this is my high ground.
This is absolute. Yeah. Right. There is no absolutes, right? Yeah. So, all right. I think we had a good thing. I think we can put a pin on this one. What do you think?
I think so too.
All right. Fun conversation as always. The question we can leave with everyone is: are you spending too much time in the mountains or valleys of your life? And how can you adjust to find more balance? And to find your own balance code. Your own philosophy, your own way of doing living life, conscious living, right? Conscious doing. So, so something to think about, and we will see you all tomorrow.
See ya.